I mean, as a Manchester United fan, what do you even take from Manchester United games? Like when you watch Manchester United games as a United fan, what are your takeaways? Like, what are your, you know, morals that you do take at the end of the game? Because after every game, as a fan, you should be able to take something, be it positive or negative. So I just want to know, if you're a Manchester United fan watching this, what are your takeaways from watching Manchester United play every single week? Because as a neutral fan, I do not support Manchester United. I don't support a team in the Premier League, but I watch Manchester United play games, and it's always something different. There's always something to say about Manchester United, be it positive, be it negative. There's never a neutral stand on Manchester United. They're either very good, or they either look very good, or they look very bad. You know, I mean, this game couldn't have been put more on a plate than it was in the first 10 minutes. Idrissa Gueye horrendously gets sent off for hitting his own player, and Everton in the first 10 minutes, when it's 0-0, are down to 10 men away from home at Old Trafford. You would think, as a Manchester United fan, well deserved, you would think that Manchester United go on to make this a spanking, go on to take this game by the scruff of the neck, score a couple of goals, get themselves, better positioned in the table, maybe increase their goal difference. But what they go on to do, they go on to get outplayed by Everton. From the first minute, even after Idrissa Gueye gets sent off, Everton actually looked like the better team. Everton actually looked like the team that had 11 players on the pitch. They didn't look like a team that had just lost a player to a red card. That's how good Everton looked throughout the game. So, again, my question stands. As a Manchester United fan, what are your main takeaways from this game that you just watched? Is it the players? Is it the manager? I really don't know. Is it the fan? There's so many questions you have to ask yourself. I want to try and get into it. Again, I'm not a Manchester United fan, so maybe my point might not be, as based as some other Manchester United fans would have. Obviously people like Goldbridge, Liez, stuff, creators like that, they're going to have different opinions on what I'm going to have. But I look at the Manchester United team. I think I watched Mbeumo play today. He played at a level where no one was able to resonate with him. He was so good, no one was able to resonate with how good he was playing. He was making passes that people were not able to get onto. He was making runs that people were not able to see. And you can see he's on a different level than these Manchester United players. He is such a good player that he plays way better than these players, and they can't keep up with him. If you had 11 Mbeuemos on the pitch today, maybe Manchester United get a result. If Manchester United had 11 players on the level of Bryan Mbeumo today, maybe they get a result. I'm not saying he played superbly today, by the way. I'm not saying that at all. But out of the players on the field, out of the 11 players on the field today, Bryan Mbeumo, Matthias de Ligt are the only two players who can come out of this game with their head held high, to be very honest with you. And that says a lot, because we've got players like Bruno Fernandes in the team. You've got players like Amad Diallo in the team. I mean, Joshua Zirkzee and Kobe Mainoo are two players that the fans always shout for the manager to play in the team. They're two players that the fans are always like, get them in the team, get them starting, get them some minutes, and they're going to play well. I don't necessarily blame them, because they haven't had a lot of matches this season. They can't really build match sharpness and all of that when you don't play a lot of matches this season. But when you're given an opportunity, no matter how prepared or unprepared you are, you have to give it your best. And these two players keep on, justifying why Ruben Amorim keeps them on the bench. Zirkzee came on, played today, bad. I don't know why he played a full 90 minutes on the pitch. I don't know why players like Obi Martin are not getting a start in the team. It's very weird. Kobe Manu came on, didn't really see any difference. But again, I don't really blame them because they haven't had a lot of game time this season. Their minutes have been very, very limited this season, Joshua Zirkzee and Kobe Manu. So you can't really put the entire blame on them because they're not match sharp as compared to someone like Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Brian and Mbeumo and a lot. So I can't really put too much blame on them, but you kind of look at it and think maybe that's why these players are not starting. Maybe that's why it's counterintuitive. It really is. But Bruno Fernandes, another player I want to talk about in Manchester United. I've said this since the season started. Since the season started, I said this, that Bruno Fernandes is not going to do well in the midfield. I don't know what this obsession is with Amorim playing Bruno Fernandes in the midfield. I understand that he's the only one at the moment who can play that position and play that position well. I mean, Ugarte has been absolutely bad this season. Same with Kobe Manu, but again, can't really blame them because they haven't had a lot of game time and minutes this season. But Bruno Fernandes is not a midfielder. The amount of times Bruno Fernandes loses his runners, loses his midfield battles, his 50-50s, he's not a midfielder. But Amorim is insisting on playing Bruno Fernandes in the midfield. I am of the assertion that if you play someone like Kobe Manu, if you start playing him now, by the time we get to January, early February, we would be able to see the best of Kobe Manu, in the sense that he would have built match sharpness and he would start playing well. Again, I understand why they are not being played in the team, because when they do get the opportunities to play, they're not playing well. But it is due to match sharpness. It is due to a lack of match sharpness. That's why they're not playing well. So again, it is counterintuitive. It is counterintuitive as to why they're not playing and why they should be playing. Bruno Fernandes misses a pass. Brian and Mbeumo gets a yellow card. He's complaining. Bruno Fernandes is always complaining. He's always going to complain. He wears the heart. His heart on his sleeve at Manchester United, and he's always going to complain. But as a captain of the team, you need to be someone that the players can look to when they're in dire situations like they were in this match, and get something. But that's not the case with Bruno Fernandes. I mean, he had some pretty good chances where he probably should have, finished better. But I mean, Pickford, a really good goalkeeper. But there's still that lack of, urgency when it comes to Bruno Fernandes. It feels like he's just doing barely enough to not get criticized. And I don't know. It's Bruno Fernandes is a whole different conversation. I really, really do think so. Another issue I've come to notice with Manchester United is the presence of inexperienced players. A lot of inexperienced players. I'm talking Patrick Dorgu, Lenny Yoro, which I think probably could have done better when it came to the goal from Dewsbury Hall. Probably could have defended it a little bit better. He didn't, but he's very inexperienced. He's going to improve as time goes on. But Lenny Yoro, Patrick Dorgu, Lament, three players in three very crucial positions for Manchester United, given the way Ruben Amorim wants to play, where you can say they're inexperienced. And Manchester United fans need to remember that these players are inexperienced. They haven't, played in the Premier League before. All three of them haven't played in the Premier League before. Lenny Yoro, I think, last season, but he didn't really play that well last season. He came in this season and, he started to play a little bit better, but he's still having that inexperience. And these players are not going to be able to give you consistency all the time. Not yet anyways. Maybe in the next 2 years, they will be, some of the best players in the world when it comes to their positions, but they can't give you consistency yet. And Ruben Amorim has to rely on these inexperienced players to get them results. And I think that is also something that you have to look at as a Manchester United fan and say, maybe this is why we're not performing well. But I want to talk about Ruben Amorim. We'll talk about Everton. I want to talk about Manchester United because they were at home and they were expected to win this game. We'll definitely talk about Everton because there are some players I do want to highlight. But I want to focus on Manchester United in this, early stages of the video. Ruben Amorim is stubborn. I've literally made a video on this channel talking about three managers who I think have been unable to adapt in game, and their ability to change the way they approach games as the game is going on seems to be very, very, lacking. Ruben Amorim, Arne Slot, and my own manager Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid. I think these three managers have shown the inability to properly make changes in terms of the system, in terms of the substitute that really impact the game. You hardly see any of these managers make a change that actually impacts the game as the game is going on. You hardly do see that. I mean, Maguire coming off the bench and scoring a goal is not really a tactical change. It's just like, hey, tall player, get into the box, put a good cross into the box, and tall player gets on the end of it and scores a goal. It's not really a game changing tactic. And I think you look at that and it's an issue because Everton, a man down, you would expect that Ruben Amorim changed the system to be a little bit more attacking, but they're still playing a 5-back. They're still playing 3 center backs with 2 wing backs. They're still, that little bit deep in their own half. They're not attacking and pressing as much as you'd expect a team that has the numbers advantage. That's what you'd be expecting when a team has a number advantage, over an opposing team. And when you're at home, you have that atmosphere and everything. So to see Amorim still stick with the same, 3-4-3 kind of approach to the game and nothing really changing, it's a bit of a concern. It really is. It really is a bit of a concern. And I'm looking back at the games that United won. Match against Nottingham. Was it Nottingham Forest? They won against Liverpool. They won against, was it Nottingham Forest? I feel like I'm forgetting some teams here. But the win against Liverpool, you look at Liverpool now and it doesn't seem impressive to win against Liverpool anymore. You look at Liverpool now and that win Manchester United had against Liverpool, it doesn't seem that impressive now. It seems like, hey, Liverpool are playing badly and winning against them isn't anything special. So their past results where they were thinking they were going to get 5 wins in a row, you look at that and maybe it was a little bit scuffy, maybe it was a little bit of a, push and shove kind of result to just force your way to get a result, because I don't think it was vintage Manchester United football. I don't think it was vintage Amorim ball, the way they were playing and the way they were approaching the games going forward. So, I mean, tactically, game management wise, you look at Amorim and there are a lot of questions. There really are a lot of questions to be asked about the Manchester United managers, and does he have the answers? That's the real question you have to be asking. Does he have the answers to many of these questions that are being asked? Because I really do think so. That he's got a lot to account for in terms of players. I mean, the January transfer window, I don't know what. I mean, a midfielder is going to help Manchester United a lot when it comes to changing the team, but who's going to be on the bench for that midfielder to come in? Bruno Fernandes doesn't look like he's going to get subbed. Casemiro, you want someone to pair with Casemiro. I think in terms of United's best midfielders, I would probably say it's Casemiro over Bruno Fernandes. So the question is, if a new midfielder is coming in, is he going to bench Bruno or is he going to bench Casemiro? And if that's the case, you might as well not get a new midfielder, because if a new midfielder comes in and benches Casemiro, the problem of Bruno Fernandes still playing in the midfield is still prevalent. So again, a lot of questions to be asked. I don't know where the answers are going to come from for Manchester United, to be very honest with you. I really don't know. But yeah, on to Everton. I said I was going to talk about Everton. Brilliant. I mean, to come to Old Trafford, go a man down in the first 10 minutes and play the way they played. I think a lot of fans praise managers, for innovativeness, creativity, changing up systems, applying their own unique systems. And I think football is such a simple game. I've said this so many times. Football is such a simple game. You don't have to complicate it. If you want to complicate it, fine. But you have to make sure that when you do complicate it, it does work. Managers like Arteta, Pep, Hansi Flick, these managers have complicated football to a certain extent, and it has worked for them. But you look at managers like Sean Dyche, you look at managers like David Moyes. These managers know how to keep football simple and get results, and that's exactly what we saw from Everton today. They scored the goal, beautiful goal from Dewsbury Hall. They scored a goal, and their system was basically to just funnel Manchester United and allow them to put crosses into the box because they know they have Keane and they have Tarkowski in the middle that can deal with that. Xerxes is not going to be winning a lot of headers. I mean, he did win a really good one, and Pickford had to make a really good save, but that's basically what they did in the second half. And most of the first half as well, when they got the first goal. They funneled Manchester United down the wings to players like Brian Mbeumo, Patrick Dorgu to put crosses into the box, and they knew that Tarkowski and Keane were going to be able to deal with those balls coming into the box, and that's a good system. Again, football is simple. When they had the ball, went long, Iliman Ndiaye and Jack Grealish, brilliant players on the counter. When it comes to transitioning, brilliant players. I mean, Iliman Ndiaye is going to be a player that's eventually going to leave Everton, go to a better team, and people are going to realize, oh wow, this guy's actually a really good player. I think he's an outstanding player, and what he's been doing for Everton, his hold up play, his transition, his ball sense, his decision making, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. James Garner, Dewsbury Hall. I mean, these players, they do the simple things well. They have the foundations down. I mean, James Garner in Manchester United midfield at the moment would do well because, again, Bruno Fernandes is not a midfielder, but that's by the by. These players on the field are just applying the simple things, and they're doing the simple things well, which it seems Manchester United have an issue with. They're missing 5-yard passes. They're not making the right decisions. And these are the foundations that, as I said, makes football a simple game. And I have to give David Moyes his flowers because, again, coming to Old Trafford, losing the man in the most bizarre ways possible, and having the, impetus to go on and keep the system the way they wanted to keep the system and continue playing, get a goal, and prevent Manchester United basically from scoring a goal. Absolutely brilliant. I think it was a very good, very good approach. And yeah, props to him. Props to David Moyes for getting the result in this game. But yeah, a lot of questions have to be asked of Manchester United. This was a game they should have won. This was a must-win game for Ruben Amorim. If you want to get top 4, if you want to get top 5, if you want to get top 6, you need to be winning games like this. I think I saw this somewhere. If Manchester United want to get top 6, this is the game they have to be winning. These are the games you have to be winning. If you're talking of top 4, you have to be winning against teams like, Aston Villa, Spurs, maybe a Chelsea, maybe a Newcastle, those teams that are actually fighting for the top 4. You have to be winning. But Everton are not fighting for no top 4, no top 6. They're fighting for mid-table to just stay in the league. So you have to be winning games against these types of teams because, again, it's at home. You have the home advantage. I don't think the return leg, Manchester United are going to play, get a positive result. And a draw for Everton in the return leg is a positive result. They've gotten 4 points off Manchester United this season. So a lot of questions have to be asked of the team, the managers, the ownership, everything has to be questioned at Manchester United. And I will ask the question that I asked earlier in the video. As a Manchester United fan, when you watch Manchester United, what are your main takeaways? What really are your main takeaways? Because I look at your players, they look lost. I look at your manager, he looks lost, and it's a lot of questions. It really, really is. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. As usual, any feedback from you guys would be greatly appreciated.